up against the winner of Surrender and Stan Udachi. We're going to start things off with the Highlander Dragon Priest versus Sintolol's Big Spell Mage. Now, we kind of talked a little bit about why Fr0zen, or how Fr0zen feels about this matchup, but we don't talk about exactly why it is. When we talk about how greedy Sintolol's lists are, how is it going to impact matchups like this one?
Well, Sintolol is playing a particularly threat-heavy version of Big Spell Mage, whereas Fr0zen is playing a much more sort of streamlined anti-aggro version. Sintolol has a lot of big threats. That means that he is able to put the pressure on in some of these matchups and actually be asking the questions rather than just having the answers. This matchup is one where I feel like maybe one of Fr0zen's better ones. Both the fact that Sintolol isn't as draw-heavy without Arcane Intellect in this deck, and also the fact that Fr0zen is playing the Dragon version.
All right, well, Sintolol's key cards, you can see some of them, of course, being the greed packages. Medivh the Guardian, Dragon Caller Olana, of course, has Fr0zen Jaina in the mix, and Alexstrasza. A lot of 8+ cards in this deck.
Yeah, the Jaina draw here is pretty big for Sintolol, because that's one of the reasons you need to have card draw in this particular matchup, because Jaina is so important for you to find. Your deck's ability to combat Shadow Reaper Anduin is very much predicated on your ability to make water elementals gain you life to ensure you don't just get pinged down over turns.
Well, Sintolol has the Raven Familiar, so he actually has some action this turn. Part of Fr0zen's hand was relegated to just being a little passive because he needs to save his coin for the curve.
I was going to say, he also just has Arcane Tyrant. This is a card you usually play in combination with a removal spell, like a Meteor or Blizzard. But here, Sintolol can just play a 4/4, and 4 attack minions are quite strong against Priest. So this is an interesting selection for Fr0zen here from his Draken Operative. Flame Strike is not particularly useful against most of the minions in Sintolol's deck because they tend to be quite large and there aren't that many of them. Dragon Caller Olana's interesting, but I don't think there's that many big spells in Fr0zen's deck either. He's just going to go with Acolyte of Pain.
It's just tempting, you know? You think, well, I have the Dragonfire Potion, I have a Psychic Scream, and you think, oh wait, that's it. I don't have any dragons to summon. And while 15 stats are on the board, or 3 5/5s are on the board, it's not going to be enough.
And here, while Sintolol could have played the Arcane Tyrant for free off of that Meteor, he's getting more damage in with the Arcane Tyrant because he chose to play it last turn.
And he's getting the tempo, which allows him to get ahead on board. We'll see if it ends up making the damage matter, though, because it does seem that this mage plays the more defensive role. I'm surprised that he wants to be so aggressive.
Another Operative is available for Fr0zen.
Yeah.
Which I expect we will see him take.
And both of them, of course, both the dragons in Fr0zen's hand are dependent on synergies with the other dragon, so we'd have to let go of one synergy for the other. Dragon of Operative is meaty stats. Plus, you never know what the card that you get from your opponent can be really good. He gets Alexstrasza.
Alexstrasza can be pretty powerful. One of the things about this mage deck is that barring the Meteors and Polymorphs, everything else is essentially damage-based removal. Meteor, yes, it is damage, but it's so much damage you don't really think of it as not being good against big minions. If Fr0zen is able to keep presenting large threats, it can actually run Sintolol out of the big removal he has for them, which can be difficult for him to ultimately deal with.
And one has been used, a Meteor on a single Operative. And, Fr0zen kind of snap-picked at Alexstrasza, which, might hint Sintolol of being able to keep some removal back, but maybe Fr0zen's going to force it out of him, and he can't use that.
Sintolol here, though, he has an excellent couple of power turns coming up. Medivh the Guardian and Fr0zen Jaina are both extremely powerful. He binds a Polymorph.
Close call.
Polymorph does give him a tool to deal with a big minion, but he'd love to save it for after he plays Fr0zen Jaina because then it represents a threat as well.
Well, Fr0zen has an opportunity to clear a lot of this board with Dragonfire Potion. But, of course, he knows that removal is a lot better against this version of the deck because of the threat of Medivh the Guardian. And because Medivh can develop so much tempo on the board through Fireland's Portal off the ATS charge, it is worth having big removal in your hand.
idea. There are a number of threats that demand very specific removal from Fr0zen's deck. There is the threat of Dragon Caller Alana in particular can generate a huge board that can be very difficult for Fr0zen's deck to deal with without either Psychic Scream or Shadow Reaper Anduin, because Dragonfire Potion does nothing to kill a swarm of dragons.
True. Also, another important note from Fr0zen picking up the Alexstrasza was getting the synergy off that Dustbreaker and free it from the hand because it seemed like it was constantly getting stuck. Sinto picks up the Arcane Tyrant, so add another reason or another way to add tempo to the board if he's able to play a big spell off of this ATS charge.
And I think we're going to see, well, Fr0zen was about to just attack the Operative Inn, and then I believe planned to cast the Shadow Reaper Anduin to get his damage going. Such an epic play.
Yeah.
Reverberating throughout the hall.
With production value. Do some slow motion Hearthstone.
And Jaina, one good Death Knight deserves another. And this is, as I mentioned, the key card in Sintolol's deck in this matchup, because the water elementals he's able to generate off his removal from this point forward makes all of Fr0zen's minion-based threats even dangerous for him to play. But he does have Anduin already, so he can try to just whittle things down with removal and use his hero power to try to get Sintolol's life total down.
Darkness speaks to me.
Right, and you know, Sinto picked up Dirty Rat, by the way. We kind of talk about how Dirty Rat can play a big role. A lot of people look at it as a way to maybe snipe Raz's battle cry, but if Fr0zen had it, most likely would have prioritized playing it early on. What really the effect of Dirty Rat is sniping that Prophet Valen, or you know, maybe another piece of the combo. Like if you get Radiant Elemental, you're still not that terribly upset if you can't land the Prophet Valen.
It's also important to note that one of the ways that Fr0zen can try to maneuver the game after Jaina comes down is to avoid playing minions, to avoid giving water elementals to Sintolol. Dirty Rat at that point can also help generate targets for your damage and your removal so that you can make water elementals if your opponent is trying to play around it.
Fr0zen's going to be short on the rope here. He needs to play a minion. He's going for Alexstrasza aggressively.
Okay.
Wow, I wasn't sure if he was going to go for it this quickly.
We see Sintolol's eyebrows raised there. He's like, okay, talking to himself.
Wow.
I don't think this is what he was expecting.
Yeah, that escalated really quickly. He has a way to deal with it, but now he has to be concerned about the burst range and whether or not he has the tools to follow up a defensive push. He has double Arcane Artificer, so he actually has a lot of life gain.
He does. Decide.
We'll also see what comes out of this ATS charge as well.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. That is a very weak minion.
But the water elemental is not. And that damage done by the Alexstrasza starting to get healed up by the lifesteal.
Fr0zen still has access to an easy clear with Dragonfire Potion, but the longer he can hold on to it without having to commit, the better.
This is actually kind of interesting because Fr0zen can theoretically go for a fatigue strategy.
Oh. Yeah, I was like, why not just kill this Cult Master?
This is actually really interesting for Fr0zen here. He's recognized, okay, well, you have Jaina, you have Atiyesh, and you got this Cult Master, and he's changing gears.
Yeah.
His plan is now not to burn Sintolol out, but rather to exhaust all of his threats. This is a very interesting direction from Fr0zen.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's a bold strategy, Kibler. We'll see if it works out for him.
I am concerned by his deck's ability to beat Dragon Caller Alana if he is planning on playing a fatigue plan, because he has already used his Shadow Reaper Anduin, and the only removal that deals with that many dragons left in his deck is Psychic Scream. And Psychic Scream will put a bunch of cards into his opponent's deck. Oh, and now the Acolyte
can equalize it.
All right, well, and this is actually potentially an opportunity for Sintolol to burn some of Fr0zen's cards. He Blizzard plus Ping, makes a Water Elemental, overdraws Fr0zen for 1. It puts him at 10 cards in hand at the draw. He could burn Raza here.
He has the opportunity to also kill his own Cult Master, too, to prevent the draw.
True.
I'm late. I'm late.
And that's what he's going to do.
Yeah, great spot here and counter from Sintolol. And we see 10 cards in the hand for Fr0zen.
The burn, Powered Shield. That's not a card he cared too much about if he is on a fatigue plan. This is one of the things I love about watching Fr0zen play, because very often he will find playing decks like this, like the Malagos Druid deck that he qualified with in the Bahamas, finding ways to utilize his cards that and his deck and his general strategy that aren't really plan A. The plan B of identifying what your other potential roads to victory are besides your deck's normal win condition is, I think, one of the things that really sets Fr0zen apart as a player.
Yeah, and he's also, kind of a mathematical savant. If you ever talk to him about statistics, crunching numbers mentally, the guy is a calculator, a walking calculator. So this guy really understands fatigue situations. Another person that I put him similar to is Purple, who's also from the Americas region. Both guys who can calculate very quickly, and even though it's like halfway through their deck, kind of recognizing this is the strategy I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the exhaustion plan. Sinto has one more charge from Zatia to generate a big threat, and this
That's the
Fire
Alana.
Lance portal can be pretty big. So let's see what comes out here. But Cobalt and Catacomb significantly nerfed the amount of good minions that come out.
All right. Well, speaking of nerfed minions, there's a Ancient of Lore.
Yeah, you can also get this Gubarushi Berserker a little bit stronger too. but-
Gubarushi? It's Kurabashi. You never played World of Warcraft, did you? Gubarushi Berserker.
You
Come on,
got
kids.
me.
Come on.
You got me. Gubarushi is like a world. It's like an Azeroth car brand.
It's troll cars?
Yeah, I guess. But I mean, this was one of the first interactions we discovered in Hearthstone back in the vanilla. Pinging your own Gubarushi Berserker. In this case, Fr0zen is gonna try to deal with this board. Very threatening amount of damage right now. He definitely does not want to Psychic Scream this.
And that is the threat here, because Psychic Scream is his only way to deal with the threat of Dragoncaller Alana. Also, really hurts his plan of trying to fatigue Sintolol. That is what he's actually going to go with.
Can also benefit from gaining a little bit of armor by using the Artificer with Shadow of Death, it looks like.
That is one angry Gubarushi Berserker.
Say enough times and it just becomes a thing, Kibler.
Oh, it's a thing. It's already a thing.
One thing that's also kind of a hidden MVP for Sinto is the fact that Arcane Tyrant is an elemental and will be gaining at least 8 life from his attacks. It's a significant swing. Sinto picks up another form of area of effect. Now it comes down to whether or not he feels like he can generate enough threats, or perhaps is he just going to play passive for now, draw cards.
Time melts away.
Well, he does draw cards. All right, well, it is Dragoncaller time.
I mean, the longer he waits, the likelier it is Fr0zen draws into the Psychic Scream.
But given Fr0zen's plan that he has demonstrated here of making Sintolol draw cards and potentially trying to hit a fatigue situation, Psychic Scream is not necessarily something he wants to have to play.
Right.
That plan goes out the window once he Psychic Screams this many minions, because Sintolol puts 4 more cards in his deck, rather 5 more cards in his deck, and is well ahead in a fatigue situation.
Well, I think he also would want to kill Dragoncaller on it as well to not give
That
it
is,
another
yeah, that's
scenario.
not a card you really want your opponent to just cast again.
Right, so he can't actually do that without giving, because he doesn't have the free hero power. And this is an instance of many of why it's punishing not having Raza.
Yeah, and the fatigue situation is now gone. Ooh, speaking of fatigue situation, Skulking Geist is able to remove several cards. I believe there are 2 1-cost spells remaining in Fr0zen's deck. So that is no longer a realistic option for Fr0zen. He has to win via damage.
Let the pain speak to me.
Well, Sinto now no longer on the threat of fatigue. Gonna go ahead and Dragon's Fury his own minions, so it doesn't potentially just get silenced or otherwise removed without drawing him a card.
Card draws of the utmost importance here. Fr0zen still has no sign of the Raza. Can draw, or he can also create a potion of this Kazakus.
A 10-cost potion, summon 3 is quite strong, and
yes.
Oh, it looks like he didn't take summon 3 from the first mode. Interesting. I'm curious what his choice was. I sort of zeroed in on that one because I feel like summon 3 and plus health is specifically so powerful in this matchup, but Fr0zen has another idea.
Very interesting. I mean, the 6 damage AoE can kind of play into the exhaustion plan.
But I think that's out the window. I feel like his ability to combat the long game, in the sense that he's trying to actually run Sintolol out of cards and win in fatigue, is not realistic at this point.
There's still Dragon's Fury and Blizzard and a Meteor. Are you really going to be able to establish a big enough board for the Icarus Undeath to summon significant minions? Right? 2 operators have died, so much junk has also died.
Yeah, it is a sheep all, deal 6 to all, so he is firmly on the removal plan with that potion, looking for a way to clear the board if that Dragon Collar Alana does come back.
I wonder how much Skulking Geist actually helps Fr0zen, because it will eliminate 2 cards from his deck, as it looks like he wins the Joust and gets the Dragon's Fury expected result.
And now Blizzard King will turn Kazakus conveniently into a Water Elemental.
Furious Glimmerroot.
Anduin has been very shy in a lot of these matches. He's been, or Anduin Raza combo specifically. We have seen a lot of players wait a very long time to actually get things together. Finds an Arcane Artificer. That is potentially a reasonable card, cheap at least, to go with Raza Anduin, and could buy him some life if it comes to that.
Doesn't look like he has enough for the hero power clear unless he commits the Northshire Cleric, but the Northshire Cleric can also draw cards right now. It would draw 2, and Fr0zen would be have a higher chance of getting Raza soon, but he's also going to run into hand space issues and also fatigue problems.
It is a real
quite
concern.
the conundrum.
It is a very real concern.
Short. Darkness speaks to me.
And Sintolol does have the Raven that can just attack into one of these minions. And okay, so Fr0zen with the silence pings. His goal with this is to ensure that the Water Elemental does not have the 4 health, so it can't just attack into his Glimmerroot and then get pinged down to give him a full health Water Elemental again. Silence, crucially, does not actually remove lifesteal from the Water Elementals. That's a universal effect from Jaina.
Secondary Rat's pretty tempting too. Fr0zen's been holding a lot of cards for quite some time and has not played Raza, so you feel like you can start pegging him on the potential Prophet Veiling. He's been holding a handful of cards for several turns now. That Circle of Healing's been there since the beginning of the game, to the far left.
Yeah,
oh, he goes for it.
Okay, well that's a Water Elemental. You see a little sort of nod, okay, from Sintolol. Not really what he's looking for, but will give him a Water Elemental.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much Fr0zen even cared about losing it, though. He wasn't really, it didn't seem like he was planning on playing Knobs Engineer.
Yeah, Geist rips 2 more cards out of Fr0zen's deck, so now he is the one who is facing a potential fatigue scenario.
You kind of brought it up. Where is the Raza? It just never seems to make its way in this matchup that we've seen so far.
Fr0zen can play his Blood Mace Thalnos and ping it himself, so at least Sintolol can't, and it digs him a little bit deeper. But the concern really is, for Fr0zen, can he chew through all of the minions from Sintolol as well as actually close out the game? Because he needs to deal with the 34 life Sintolol has, and of course, Sintolol still has Artificer in reserve. He still has another Ice Block. He still has Alex Straza. So there's just a lot that Fr0zen needs to fight through.
The shadows grow short.
Fr0zen's gonna go for the card draw finally. He's got Mind Blast and Spirit Lash. And he picks up Raza with his next immediate draw.
Got himself a Mind Blast
Yeah.
too, so that does increase his damage range. This does run the risk of his minions getting Flame Striked away and pinged down, which gives yet another Water Elemental over to Sintolol.
We're gonna play one of our expensive cards like Flame Strike. Do you want to toss in the Arcane Artificer with the process?
feel
That
like
way you can get the maximum armor.
I feel like you very often want to wait on Arcane Artificer depending on the situation. Here, I feel like Sintolol is sufficiently far ahead that perhaps he can just gain the 7 armor, and it looks like he agrees. Often you want to hold onto Artificer if there's the threat of getting burst down, so you can play Artificer plus Meteor on Velen plus Ice Block to keep yourself alive post burst. But right now, Sintolol is just very far ahead.
Fr0zen finally assembles 2 members of the A team, but is it too late?
Hey, it's down to just 14 life, and there's a lot of threat on the other side of the board.
Right. I mean, maybe he has a potion now.
He may need to use this Kazakus potion. He would love to hold on to it so he has an answer to the Dragon Collar Alana if it does come back out, but he may not have a choice.
I bet Fr0zen's also going to try to find a way to get greedy too, because he has an Arcane Artificer. And if he's able to swing that Kazakus potion for 10 life, that would be also huge as well.
That is going to be tough to do. There's still a couple of removal spells available for Sintolol. He'd have to have a clear board so the Artificer does not get attacked, and then play a 10 mana card.
Yeah, it might. It's looking more like
at this point, this potion has to be it. He doesn't have enough time to do pretty much anything else. Oh wow, he's not okay. Does he even have the time for all these animations? Okay, well, the rope's just patiently waiting over there as a little nub.
Was actually on a draw for lethal, as he has 8 on the board and potential Fire Lance Portal to end the game. Fr0zen takes the risk, acknowledges that if he loses, he needs to take that risk in order to win, and he might lose anyways if he plays very defensive. And looks like it's paid off so far. Still a long ways away from winning this game.
Sintolol has a lot of pressure. He has the ability to make even more water elementals. He's all debating if he wants to add even more threat to this board.
No Spirit Lash from Fr0zen, but now he's going to be able to clear everything through a Kazakus potion.
All right, well, the last thing that Fr0zen wants to see now is Dragon Collar Alana, because he has lost his last way to deal with a board full of giant dragons.
Oh my goodness.
And here's the Dragon Army. 7 minions from 1 card, and that is it. Sintolol takes game 1 with Dragon Collar Alana.
Checkmate.